and welcome to another episode of the Heal Your Worldview podcast. I'm your host, James Knight, and as always, this podcast is dedicated to connecting the current worldview you have from a philosophical perspective and the childhood trauma that we all get along the way and how that influences how you see the world. Today, I want to talk about those young people out there, young men, young women, that are trying to navigate the madness that is 2024. And the last, if let's just say you're, heading out of high school and you're trying to figure out what the hell to do with yourself. Maybe you go to college, maybe you do a trade. What do you know? You don't know. All you know is nothing makes sense to you. And here you are. It's time for you to be an adult. So first I want to point out that how sadistic that the U.S. culture is with this. The irony is we put you in this sheltered environment called school for 12 years of your life, okay? Where you're not really dealing with reality, right? You're in this sidebar of education, and all of the stuff that you get taught is really abstract concepts, reading, writing, and arithmetic. If you're lucky, you picked up a sport and at least you're grounded in some kind of reality or, musician or something. But a lot of people doesn't really help them, okay? And this is a problem, right? So you spend your life in a bubble, okay? And then you turn 18 and magically society flips a light switch and now you're an adult, okay? Aren't you ready yet? What do you think, right? Well, everybody expects you to be ready. Everybody expects you to all of a sudden be an adult. And that's really unfair. That's why I call it sadistic. Because what kind of adult skills did you learn? If you're lucky, you went to a school that might have helped you with a checkbook, or, some of the good schools used to have a nice trade school where you could work on your car or whatever. It just depends on where you go to school and what they have. So I know that the school district that my kids went to, they had a very nice, it was a satellite school where you could go and learn all that stuff, right? All the, how to do stuff, how to be working on things with your hands. What they would do is you had to maintain a grade point average on the stuff that everybody hates, or you couldn't go over there. Okay. So they still screwed you over with the coercive carrot and the stick. And that's the huge problem with our society is all our kids get is carrot and stick. They don't get any kind of, you don't get any kind of critical thinking skills, right? My first critical thinking class came in college, and it was okay. It wasn't a great critical thinking class. It was a decent intro though. But it taught you more how to read news articles, and it's a good practice, right? But it's not real. It's not real critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills is connected to a lot of things, and all those things you don't learn in public school. Now, you might be lucky and you might have one or two teachers in your entire career in public school that might help you learn that stuff, but they're few and far between. That was my experience, and I went to school in the 80s. I graduated in 1987, and I still remember their names. I still can see their faces. I had 5 good teachers that I really thought really made a difference and helped me see things better. Otherwise, open your textbook and they're just yelling at you shit out of the textbook. And it doesn't help anybody. And the other problem with public schools, it is a factory, okay? And what do factories do? Factories create specific items. There's not a lot of differences in a factory, right? Like if you're at a Ford factory, you're really building one car and it might be in different colors, but it's the same car over and over and over again. So public schools is like that. Like they're building, you get to pick your own color, but it's the same car, right? And if you don't like that car, or if that car is not helping you figure stuff out, yeah, it's really a waste of your life. So society has flipped that switch for you, and you're an adult. You're old enough to vote. You're old enough to go to war and die for your country. You're not old enough to buy a beer yet. You're not old enough to buy a weed yet, but you can go die for your country. Isn't that great? This is a kind of crazy shit that all of us deal with. It's a really strange thing that we deal with, okay? You're going to run into some conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff. That's not going to help you either, because some of them are actually true, but usually they're so hyperbolic that it's hard to tell what part is true. There's truth inside the narrative, but who knows what the scope of the truth is. That's missing when you don't have critical thinking skills, is how we're being manipulated from all directions, how to arm yourself with knowledge and skills that protect your mind from all of those that want to control it. And the amount of people that want to control your mind is extraordinary. You have no idea yet, right? Maybe you have some idea, but you have no idea the scope of what is expected of you from all the different pieces of the puzzle. Republicans want something from you. The Democrats want something from you. The corporations want something from you. It's on and on and on, okay? So you need to find out what your raison d'être, sorry, I just butchered the word, but it's your reason to be. What is your reason to be? Now, interestingly, the Christians have a really good piece here that helps. They call it your calling. What is your calling? Okay, that's a helpful concept. What is your calling? But you go through high school, and when you're a junior, the college peeps come out, the recruiters for the military come out, and they throw this list in front of you, like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And you're still a kid. Now, you have the body of an adult, but you're still mentally not completely developed yet, right? You haven't reached your final form yet. So the idea that you could pick what you want to do with the rest of your life when you're 18 or 19, sometimes 17, is really the height of absurdity. And I just want you to know that I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but a lot of people that go to college for something that they think they're going to do for the rest of their life, they end up changing their mind and doing something else. That's how lame it is to go to college right after high school. Really, someone should go to college when you're about 22 to 26 would probably be ideal. But then what do you do for those years in between? And the reason I say 22 is the brain is still developing, right? You still have yet to develop a part of your brain that helps you with future planning and different aspects of your adult brain. Is still not quite there yet. So just realize that. So if you feel like you're lost and floundering, yeah, right. Your brain's not done developing. Okay. So of course you're in the predicament. Hopefully you get to the point where you have a desire and some kind of direction in college, and hopefully that sticks. Usually what happens in college, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, you're supposed to take liberal arts, which is just studying everything, a whole lot of things. It's like a shotgun in the mouth, and it just tries to blow up your worldview, which is actually a good thing, right? But you're still young, so it's hard. That's the problem with the liberal arts, is if it's infected by professors that have an agenda, it's really hard for you to fight them off. It's really hard. So just realize that these guys know this, and they are always recruiting. So what do you do, right? What do you do to protect yourself while you're still young? Even your parents have an agenda for you. It's all kinds of stuff. Hopefully you're lucky and you have parents that are like not trying to micromanage your future, but that's actually more rare, I think, than the norm. Everybody wants their kid to be a rich professional. So it's a funny thing. And I get why, right? They don't want you to struggle in your life financially and all those things. And, there's a logic to it. There's a pragmatic logic, but it is what it is. I don't have a roadmap for you that will say, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to be good. You're going to find yourself in a good place. No, it doesn't work that way, because everybody's different. Okay. And that's why these one size fits all things just don't work very well. It works if you're if you're lucky, it works for you. But if you're not lucky, then you're stuck with, well, I guess I'll just do that for now. And that sucks, right? There's nothing worse than not knowing what to do with yourself, especially when society flips that switch for you. And now it's time to be an adult and you don't know what to do with yourself. So you're kind of floundering, playing video games and all that crap. Or you're a young lady and you're chasing superficial stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that just wastes your time, right? I have other podcasts that talk about the cul-de-sac maze, and this is the problem, right? So you're young, you just get out of high school, You're not sure what the hell to do with yourself. You haven't reached your final form yet. Really, you don't reach your final form until you're like late 20s. Really, and then you're still not reaching it, but that's when you're like, things really click into place. That's why people settle down and have a family when they get to around 30. Like, it's like between 28 and 32, there's this magic moment when people just settle down and have kids, which is the funny part, because you women out there, because you have the babies, this is that moment where you studied in college, you got your degree, you did all that stuff, you start your career, and then baby fever hits. All that time and effort you spent in college now shifts. And this is not a guarantee. This doesn't happen to all the women, but, it happens to a lot of you. You just switch to family mode. It's part of the biological process, man. It's hard to get out from under it. So there's all that effort you spent, and then switch to having kids, right? And kids dominate. Now, the cool thing about 200 years ago is the women educated the kids, right? The men were all off doing stuff, right? They were, farming or whatever. Who educated the kids back then? It was the moms. So the moms were highly educated, at least most of them were, and they knew that they were going to educate the kids. Like, the schoolhouse stuff didn't come in yet. And there probably was some kind of, network. Like, now they have the homeschooling network stuff. I kind of guess that that's about how it was. But it's very rural out there, right? A lot of the people. And so getting from one farm to the other was very difficult, right? It was a hell of a chore to get from, one farm to the other. And then you can see in the cities, it's always different, right? 'Cause cities are a problem. I'm going to share this piece of knowledge with you that really affected me. And I always forget the guy's name, and I apologize, but there was a doctor. Anyways, he was an animal behaviorist guy, right? He studied animals, and this guy studied wolves, okay? He wanted to, make a definitive work on how wolves are and what they do and all the mannerisms and all that stuff. Now, the problem is he studied them in captivity, okay? And he wrote all this work. Matter of fact, he's still cited. If you ever heard the term alpha male, that he is the guy that really helped coin that, because in his wolf study, there was an alpha male. So society took this ball and ran with it. And of course, humans, we anthropomorphize everything under the sun. I mean, we even anthropomorphize the universe. Got to have a god up there, and it's got to be human. Okay, well, whatever. But we did that with wolves too. So the behavior of wolves, a lot of people latched onto those things, the alpha male, so they got the alpha, the beta. Can't remember the other ones, but they're all useful. But that same doctor, I think it was a few decades later, but it was many years later, decided that he wanted to reproduce his work with wolves in the wild. Okay, and when he studied the wolves in the wild, he was shocked to see that they're completely different than how they were in captivity. And why am I telling you this? Well, if you live in the city, you are a human born in captivity. And why do I say that? Because the city is not reality, okay? The city is man's interpretation of organization and reality, okay? So we take nature and we conform it to what works for us. So it's not real, okay? I mean, it's real, but it's not real. It's not like you're living out in a hunter-gatherer society, living your day, searching for food and risking your life and all that stuff. No, it's not like that at all. So there becomes this veil. So the city puts a veil in between you and reality. And modern society is very, very complicated. So many things to learn that also puts a veil in between you and reality. All right. What does that mean? It means that you don't know yourself yet. Right? You might know aspects of yourself. If you're lucky, you feel comfortable in your skin. That's a good start. That's a great start for what I'm trying to do here, which is help people connect with reality. That's simple as that. And usually, now, if you are into sports, that helps, because at least sports, you're interacting, in at least with each other in a way that forces you to think about things differently, right? For example, if you play softball or football, whatever you're playing, well, you could run into each other. You could get injured. There's all kinds of shit going on. And it's useful. It's helpful. So what I recommend when you're young is you need to find some physical thing to do that you could be passionate about. I mean, rock climbing, mixed martial arts, anything. Football, basketball, all those things. Now, there's still, human rules and all that stuff. So there's still a veil in between you and reality. At least your physical body is not getting neglected. And when you're working on stuff in the 3D plane, right? Any sport is a three-dimensional exercise where you're trying to accomplish some goal, some physical goal. It really does matter, right? It really does affect you, especially for those guys that are trapped in the virtual world. It's a dangerous place, guys. Super dangerous. It is very addicting to see how far computers have come and what the promise of the future is with the virtual reality and stuff like that. There's all kinds of crazy dystopian books that really feel like that's going to be, really close to how it is. And I am not looking forward to that future, man, because, life can be hard. And so what humans do is we escape. Everything we do, especially if you grew up in the city, you're going to have all these traumatic wounds from growing up in this schizophrenic society, or even psychopathic. I mean, the society is really weird. It's like you can't trust anybody, and it makes people paranoid, and that's not good. It skews your perception of reality. It makes you paranoid. It does all kinds of bad things to your head when you have that veil in front of your awareness. So the best I can do for you, especially if you're 18 to 22, especially if you're a male. Women seem to be better adjusted at this, but they're in trouble too. It's not exactly that cut and dry. But you young men out there, all right, there's a bullseye on you, especially if you're white, but all of you, right? I'm telling you, you black guys out there, the bullseye is going to hit you too, as you start to snap out of the illusion that's been put on you your whole life. The system will turn on you. Like, you think, all that unfair shit that happened to Black America at the hands of the justice system. You guys fucking wait until they realize that you are seeing things clearly, and they're going to come for you, okay? You thought they came for you before, then they're really going to come for you. It's going to be you're just going to be pushed over into the cis mailbox, okay? It's going to happen. It's already happening. I already see like this immigrant stuff where they bring the immigrants in and displace black communities. I'm like, Jesus, that's pretty brazen. Well, that's because you guys keep talking about voting for Trump. Yep, that's exactly what that is. Any of you guys that are out of line, they're going to tune you right up. This is what you guys need out there, okay? You need a connection to reality, and it needs to be a good one, right? Just playing a sport is not good enough. So what you need is some connection to reality that you can, weightlifting something, right? And that was my thing. I loved to lift weights when I was younger. It's a form of meditation, and it's very, very good. And you can do a lot with it. It helps your self-esteem. It's really good, but you need to start to learn. You need to start to understand how manipulation works. You need to read 48 Laws of Power. You need to read 33 Strategies of War. You start there, and you realize, when you read those books, you realize just how messed up everything is, and just how so many people just love to control others. They just do. That's their own trauma talking, right? So that's the point of my podcast, is to connect your trauma with your current worldview so you can kind of maybe snap out of it. You get a chance. You can't snap out of it if you don't know how it works, okay? You can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. And that's what happens to us all. We grow up in captivity. We grow up in the city, and we're taught the rules, but the rules don't make sense. I don't care what side you're on, Democrat, Republican. None of their rules make any damn sense. The Christian rules don't make sense. Nobody's rules make sense. There's all kinds of double standards all loaded in there. So that brings me to morality. You need to learn an objective moral code so that you know when someone's attacking you, be it physically or mentally. And that's the hard part is, if you learn how to let's say you take mixed martial arts or something, you learn how to defend yourself physically. Well, that doesn't protect your mind. And getting in fights is illegal, okay? Unless you're in a ring, right? So you can't use that shit to protect yourself unless someone actually comes up and attacks you physically. You can't use it. So what do you have to do? You have to learn mixed martial arts on the mental side as well. And that is reason evidence, and logic. Logic is how you protect yourself. But you got to watch out because there's all kinds of bad philosophy out there that twists logic around a very bad starting point. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, that's what the rest of my podcasts are all about, is helping you connect these things so that you can strip away all of the manipulation that's been on you your whole life and get a fresh start so you can actually become a free person. Freedom is a state of mind. If you have all kinds of trauma from your upbringing affecting your brain, you are not free yet. Now, physically you're free. You can go to McDonald's or do whatever you want, but mentally, maybe not. It just depends, right? Now, maybe you are one of the lucky ones and your mind is free, but what if you're not one of the lucky ones? What if you have a negative inner voice? What if you have a problem connecting with reality? What if you think reality is not real? These are all real problems. And they will mess you up, man. They will mess you up. And then you'll be easily manipulated. And who knows, right? Who knows what happens from there? So it's all important, and I'm sorry that you find yourself at your adulthood and it's so messed up, okay? That you really haven't been taught much. You have some knowledge, right? I'm not a doom and gloomer here, but the important knowledge that you need to thrive as an adult, you got to start learning it now. And it's just a disservice. That's why I call it sadistic, because we just don't prepare our kids for reality and we don't prepare them for adulthood. And that is a sad, sad indictment. So that's what we're doing here on this podcast. We're just kind of laying out, we're working on stripping away the illusion, okay? And with that illusion stripped away, we can actually start to rebuild from the ground up all the pieces that you weren't taught when you were growing up, and it will make your life better. It will. It's just a lot of work, and it's sad that you spent all that time in school and you didn't get this stuff. Now, 500 years ago, they were teaching the young men in the schools how to think like this, okay? And they realized that people that have this kind of thinking, this kind of knowledge and this knowledge base and the ability to critically think are dangerous. You heard of the founding fathers? Those guys were educated like that. And look what they did. All that revolutionary spirit that was happening between 1780 and 1940, all of that bloodshed was all as a result of educating people to think like that, okay? And it is a dangerous thing, right? I mean, what do you think Hitler was trying to do? He ended up being an evil guy, but he thought he was the good guy, man. He did. That's the problem with all this. Those guys thought they were the good guy. That's how messed up our culture is that the good guy ends up being the bad guy. And we keep seeing it over and over and over that there's a certain type of mindset that they think they're the good guy and they're actually evil, and it's hard to do anything about it. So I'm going to end it here. As always, thanks for listening to another episode of Heal Your Worldview podcast. And if you found value in this episode, please hit like and possibly subscribe. And as always, I'll see you on the next one, and have a great day.